I think I accidentally went live for a second. It does because I just. Oh no, okay, it's still. Okay. All right, folks, I think we are live. Give me a second just to check on things. Can you see? It looks like I'm live, but not hearing myself at all. No, I shouldn't hear it through there. I sometimes can, but that's okay. Okay, yeah, yeah. All right, so looks like we are live. Gonna check the Twitch stream. Okay, looks like we're live on Twitch as well. Awesome. All right, sorry about that, folks. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Oh, we already got a comment in from What Up America. What's up? Hey, what up? Busy for a bit, but we'll come back to watch the end of the stream. Good to see you going live again. Awesome. So glad to have you here, and we'll look forward to chatting with you a little later. What up, America? Hope you saw that I did get reply to your email earlier. I haven't checked my email in a while, so I'm not sure if you got back already. No rush whatsoever, but I did get back to you. So check that out. All right, so what is up, folks? Thank you so much for being here. This is the Radical Democracy Podcast. I'm your host, Kamali Rose, and today we are going to be discussing a broad range of topics. So before I start, let me just say that I do intend. I did a recent stream on the recent recent accusations that came out against Shahid Buttar about there were some allegations regarding sexual harassment and worker mistreatment and creating like a workplace sort of misogyny or workplace of misogyny, sexism. Those were the charges uh, against him. That's what folks were alleging against him. He came out, denied it. But I did a stream on this, and I got some really great feedback, got some really great comments on that, and I do intend to do another video just to sort of do a bit of an update and also to address a lot of those comments. So I will dive deeper into that. I also would like to bring in some Michael Brooks into the conversation just to sort of show what I think might have been his take on this. So sorry about that, y'all. Let me jump into this, and then let me just let a few folks know that we are live, and then we'll get going on that. So. Sorry, folks. Give me just 1 second. All right. I think That's good. Okay. So let's get into it, folks. So the first story that I want to talk about is something that I had prepped the material for today, prepped all the content that I wanted to cover for today, and then as I was getting ready to go live, I saw that Kyle Kalinske had tweeted this out, and so I just wanted to jump in and dive into this real quick. It's really early. This just, this is kind of breaking news, and so you know, information's rolling in, and just take it with a grain of salt. So it appears that, all right, so again, this is a new format for me, folks, so bear with me. I'm going to be, things may be a little rough around the edges here. I'm like I said, just trying a new format here today for the first time, so be kind, folks. All right, so first story was, it appears that, and this was tweeted out by Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk earlier today, about an hour and a half ago. But it appears that, and this was posted by Mark Bednar, who says in his Twitter bio is a at GOP leader, which comms. So he looks like he some sort of handles communications for some outlet. So he says, Politico labeled Senator Kamala Harris as Biden's running mate that he chose on August 1st, 4 days from now. So it looks like Politico has come out and accidentally reported Kamala Harris as Joe Biden's VP pick. They posted a small blurb on it, and this was posted in a list of other potential candidates. They did an article listing a bunch of potential candidates, and then of all the potential candidates, they highlighted Kamala Harris as Biden's VP pick, as you can see in this image here that somebody took a screenshot of. It says, the text says, Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris to become his running mate for the 2020 election on August 1st. That's 3 days from now, 2 weeks before the Democratic National Convention, after keeping his choice close to the chest for months. In his announcement, Biden called Harris a worthy opponent and a worthy running mate, alluding to the pair's rivalry during the earlier stages of the Democratic primary. She will bring her experience as a prosecutor, household name recognition, and skill as a debater to the ticket. So since this was noticed and reported out, since then Politico has come in and has reported now, it has corrected the story, has altered the story. So here was another tweet from David Hookstead that says, Politico published an article claiming Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris as his running mate and announced it August 1st. It's since been changed and scrubbed from the piece. Original on the left, current version on the right. And you can see a link to the story. I pulled the story up here if you want to see. This is a current version of the website right now, and as you'll see, they've removed the identification as for Kamala Harris as the VP pick. So this is something, again, take it with a grain of salt. This is something that does happen sometimes. I mean, there was like a Newsweek article about Hillary Clinton that had been released like days before the 2016 election that it was on their website. They accidentally released it early, and it was calling her it was a story announcing her as the winner of the presidential race. And of course, we all know what happened there. So this is something that will happen from time to time, reporters will write out stories in advance to prep for a story. And so sometimes they'll write that up, they'll have that ready to go, sort of queued up, and they may submit that to an editor, or have it in place in a way that it can be accidentally revealed early. And so I don't know all the technical things that go on behind the scenes there. I've never worked within like a newsroom or anything like that. So you just take it with a grain of salt. This is definitely suspect in my opinion. There's a couple things that sort of stood out to me, just that make it feel like they may have potentially been communicating maybe with somebody inside of Joe Biden's campaign, maybe got a bit of an early tip. Maybe they said, listen, I can give you this early so you can prep your story, but you can't report it out officially until I give you the go ahead. And maybe it accidentally got written up in there. But so what it looks like to me, that's sort of just based on the fact that they said, in his announcement, Biden called Harris a worthy opponent and a worthy running mate, alluding to the pair's rivalry during the earlier stages of the Democratic primary. That's just so specific to me that it's just like, if you're going to write that out, it just feels like something, like you might know something that's going on there. That's a lot of, wording to have to create around something that's totally false. But, I'm not a reporter, I'm not a journalist, and I don't know for sure. So I pointed this out to my girlfriend, and she was very suspicious of this. So I'll take it with a grain of salt. I've been told to not to read too much into it necessarily, and so I do think it's just worth. Hold on one second, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. So Kyle Kalinske is the one that originally tweeted this out. So if he is seeing it, at least he retweeted it. Sorry, he retweeted this originally. So if if I'm wrong, then Kyle's also a little wrong about this. So I'm just saying here. So I think that, and that matters, that Kyle Kalinske, he's a very astute political observer, that dude. And if he's seeing this and saying something, then I'm just going to go ahead and also be suspect of this. And so if this is true, I just want to make some comment. If this is true, this is terrible. This is horrendous. I mean, Kamala Harris is I have to imagine, possibly the worst possible pick of all the bunch. I mean, she's terrible. She's terrible across the board. This is, Kamala Harris is a cop. She's a former prosecutor. I don't have this just came out, so I didn't prep a bunch of stuff, but we could run through her terrible record of, her prosecutorial record. She had a dude that was on death row who they received evidence that this dude, like DNA evidence strongly suggested that they had the wrong person on death row, and she refused to allow the evidence to be brought in and to allow that to overturn this death row inmate's death sentence. And I don't know about y'all, but personally I am against the death penalty, simply for the fact that we get it wrong a percentage of the time. It's something like 3%. That's 3 out of every 100 people we murder the wrong person. That's like probably a lowballing of the number. And so that alone is enough for me to say this isn't, that's not something that I can get behind. So Millie says, I wonder why they just rewrote an entire blurb about Kamala Harris rather than just delete it, because the rewrite doesn't offer anything new or different, if that makes sense. And Thanatos, I looked that up, how to pronounce that. So Thanatos says, yeah, I see Kyle Kalinski's retweet of it right now. It's good to keep in mind whether it becomes confirmed or not if she gets picked. Yes, exactly. So we should keep this in mind for sure, especially that quote, because that's really suspect. A worthy opponent and a worthy running mate. If we see that pop up, then we know this was information they received early. I mean, I don't have too much to say on the Biden thing. I've sort of I've disengaged a bit from electoral politics because of after Bernie lost the race. I just don't think that it's going to be an effective arena, an incredibly effective arena for us necessarily over the next 4 years, and that we can better focus our time on building democracy close to us and in the places that we spend the majority of our time instead of trying to beg these oligarchs for democracy. Because, I mean, we got Trump versus Biden, which is a Republican versus a Republican, two right-wing thinkers versus one another. Both want to cut Social Security and beef up the military budget and increase policing. And so, Joe Biden said he wants to increase funding for police. Meanwhile, I'm out here trying to defund police. So, yeah. So just something to take and keep in mind, over the next few days. If this is true, I mean, they're all, what's his pick? Who is he picking from anyway? They're all neoliberal, just garbage picks. So I don't care. I don't care that, I mean, I should, I know he's going to pick a woman, but who else has a woman as their VP, a black woman as their VP? Howie Hawkins, the Green candidate for president. So I'm perfectly cool voting for Howie Hawkins for president. And if identity politics is all you care about, well, there you go. You got a candidate that you can get behind and support already, who already put a black woman on his ticket. And so, he just also happens to support all the policies that we on the left, at least claim we nominally support. So Medicare for all, Green New Deal, raising the minimum wage, $15 minimum, but higher based on cost of living. So, it supports all of that. And so this just, the identity politics of this just grosses me out. Black woman as president, Klobuchar was originally up for it, but after she was connected to the George Floyd George Floyd matter, because she had let the cop Derek Chauvin go free when he had done this before, and chose not to prosecute him before when he had abused authority in the past, and I think killed someone, or at least violently assaulted somebody. But I believe he killed somebody before. Yeah, he killed an indigenous man, I believe, before. And so that ended her run, her potential to be the VP pick. So then, so with Biden, I think that at this point, he's just playing identity politics to cater and pander to a small subset. Mostly, honestly, the polls have shown that the people most impacted by these identity politics are suburban white women, are the most impacted by this form of politics right here. The identity politics, they're the most concerned about the vice presidential pick being a woman, and particularly a woman of color. So you're not seeing that black people outrightly rejected Kamala Harris. I mean, when she ran, you see how abysmally she did. She had to drop out before California because she didn't want to be embarrassed going on that ticket. And she dropped out, I think it was the day or days before she would have been forced to remain on the ballot in California, which would have likely sunk her chances as a VP pick, even because she would have performed so abysmally. And so, I mean, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Andrew Yang might have been polling higher than her at that point in her own state. And so she was way down there, polling single digits and just dropping week to week. And so she had to get out before then. And again, she just has a horrible prosecutorial record. Her stance on truancy. She was locking up, she thought it was a good idea to lock up parents of truant kids who skip school. She thought that it would be a good idea to punish those children by taking their parents away from them, because that's, and there you go, that's family separation right there. Like, we talk about, Trump with family separation, there goes family separation right there. And we already know about Joe Biden's record on being, the vice, the the deputy deporter in chief, because he was the second in command to the deporter in chief. And so family separation and the like is nothing new. Kids in cages is nothing new to these people. So there we go. I just wanted to throw that out there and let that be known. So next up. Okay. All right, so let me just get our next story ready here. And again, forgive me for technical. All right. So last Thursday, every Thursday, the weekly unemployment claims number is released. And so the story is actually came out last Thursday, but just had time to cover it now. And apparently for the first week in 4 months, so let me just read from this Wall Street Journal. This is reported in the Wall Street Journal. We have a rise in weekly unemployment claims points to faltering jobs recovery. Initial claims climbed for the first time in nearly 4 months to 1.4 million amid uptick in coronavirus cases. So let me just quickly read from this article from the Wall Street Journal, wallstreetjournal.com. It's by Eric Morath, and it was published on July 23rd, or updated, July 23rd. So filings for weekly unemployment benefits rose for the first time in nearly 4 months as some states rolled back reopenings because of the coronavirus pandemic, a sign the jobs recovery could be faltering. Initial unemployment claims rose by a seasonally adjusted 109,000 to 1.4 million for the week ended July 18th, the Labor Department said Thursday, halting what had been a steady descent from a peak of 6.9 million in late March, when the pandemic and business closures shut down parts of the U.S. economy. So this is just something that I want to point out a few things here. So for one, this is, as they point out here, this is the first week in nearly 4 months that that the unemployment numbers increased. So that means that they have been steadily declining, and that means that every week was a new low. That means from the high point, from the peak, it had reached a new low from that peak every week, which means that if it only increased 110,000 essentially to get to 1.4 million, that means there were about 1.3 million claims made last week. And that was at the absolute lowest that it reached over the course of this pandemic since we started, since the first 6.9 million, since the peak of 6.9 million in late March. And so just to put that in context, at the peak of the Great Recession, the 2008, 2009 housing crash, the Great Recession, at its peak, the weekly unemployment claims number at its peak during the Great Recession was 625,000. In the previous peak of all time in history before the COVID-19 pandemic was 695,000 weekly claims. So what we're talking about here is on a magnitude of at least double what are the most in history. And so since we've been tracking this, and so the numbers that we're talking about, these are worse than what we've ever tracked, but we didn't track during the Great Depression. And so but economists like Richard Wolff have said that this is far worse than what happened in the Great Depression, simply because it's not that it just cut so deep, but it cut so fast. And so what took about 3 years of job loss in the Great Depression happened over the course of about 3 weeks during the COVID pandemic. So that's one thing that definitely needs to be highlighted there. And just the fact that just these are staggering numbers we're talking about. We're talking about 1.4 million new claims for unemployment at the same time in the same week that our Congress has just let the CARES Act lapse, and now the $600 a week federal pandemic unemployment compensation has run out as of for every state except for New York. It was Saturday, July 25th, and every state in New York State was Sunday, July 26th. So since then, now that $600 a week compensation has run out. There were over 20, I think they said about 25.6 million people that are going to have that benefit be running out starting next week, and that's $2,400 less a month for at least. That's almost 10% of the country there, 30 million people nearly. So you're probably talking about 1 in every 4 families being impacted by that, and just having their income go off of a cliff. It's just going to fall off of an economic cliff there. You're suddenly making $600 a week less, and what they're talking about replacing this with is a joke. And I'll get more into the stimulus package. I intend to do an entire episode where we kind of dig into just all the recent news that has come out about the stimulus package. I think that'll be our next episode, hopefully tomorrow. And so we'll dig more into the stimulus package and really try to pick it apart a little bit more and just highlight how uniquely terrible this and woefully insufficient this economic stimulus package that is being right now proposed by Republicans. What the Democrats had already proposed, and I believe what they called the HEROES Act, was already woefully insufficient. But this is spitting in the face of workers everywhere, small businesses, and it even, they're talking about Mitch McConnell's trying to sneak in something called the Trust Act into this that would gut Social Security and Medicaid. So we're now leveraging our retirements for a little bit of short-term security here. And so this is absurd. And by the time you retire, it's too late. You're older. You just don't have the energy to be fighting like this, and you're already into the system and on a fixed income. So things get a lot harder then. So this was just something that was really striking. Wanted to call attention to this, make sure that we're paying attention to this. The unemployment we are at beyond Great Depression levels of unemployment. And what we need is a massive stimulus. And look at what the response to the Great Depression was. It was FDR policies. It was FDR enacting the most progressive policies and the most radical policy changes that this country may have ever seen since its inception. In the shortest period of time, you had Social Security, a jobs insurance for the first time, the what's it called, the military, the GI Bill that allowed the veterans to go to school for essentially free. So there were all kinds of social programs implemented in order to, and there was a massive amount of government spending used to offset the Great Depression. And then you had, the World War II, and we had to further, enact greater social programs in order in greater government spending. We had to really ramp up government spending in order to offset the loss of productivity for the country and doing something like going to war or fighting a pandemic. So the fact that we're not stimulating the economy properly right now, and that we're sitting here giving handouts, worrying about handouts and corporate liability at the same time that tens of millions of Americans are unemployed and unable to find work because those jobs are the permanent job loss is increasing. Temporary at the beginning of this pandemic, there were a lot more temporary jobs being lost than permanent job loss, but the permanent job loss has been increasing slowly over time. And so what that means is that in the beginning of the pandemic, it seemed like, okay, most of these job losses are going to be temporary and we'll be going back to these jobs. But as this pandemic has waged on, it's been, the job loss is now shown to be permanent job loss, and these jobs have been proven to not be coming back, mostly because, well, for one, obviously the restrictions, there are lots of restrictions in place, but then also 70% of our economy is consumer spending, and people don't have, are about to run out of, have $2,400 less a month to spend, and people have been sort of having to tighten up a bit. Now, of course, because of that $600 a week payment, that was acting as a stimulant to the economy, and it was one of the only things propping up the real economy. Now, the Fed is injecting was at one point injecting trillions of dollars per day, but they've injected trillions of dollars into the stock market, and they're artificially propping up that sector of the economy. But the real economy is being largely held intact by this $600 a week federal pandemic unemployment compensation, because that's the money that people have to spend to still buy from local restaurants that are operating at, in this limited capacity, and you're trying to spend on local stores, local restaurants. And so the only way to keep that going is to keep these payments going. And what we really need at this stage is so let's just dig a little bit into this really quickly. But the Republicans' big issue with this is that there is and for anyone that hasn't already, please do me a favor, like and subscribe. If you haven't already, please click the like button below. Just smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Also, you'll find a link in the description to my Patreon. If you can afford it, please do me a favor and support the channel. Help us grow, help us keep the lights on by just donating a couple bucks on Patreon every month. So I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so just getting back to it, with this bill that they're proposing, this is just what they're offering us is insufficient because of the fact that we rely so heavily on this in this country on consumer spending. We really do need, we rely on people having money, everyday people having the disposable income. And so what they're talking about doing is dropping that down from $600 a week to something like 70% of people's income, which is likely to end up being something like on average around $200 a week. So you're talking about $400 a week less. That's $1,600 less a month. That's a lot of spending money. That's a lot of money. That dollar, they have this economic measure of something, they call it like the multiplier effect of your dollar. What's the multiplier effect of your dollar? So like $1 for a poor working class person has it ends up getting spent back into the economy like 2 to 3 times at least, where $1 to a wealthy person, it doesn't get circulated into the economy annually at all, because they're just putting it into a bank somewhere, stashing it away, and it's not getting touched. And so that money's not actually going back into our economy. So it's much more of a stimulating effect when you put money in the hands of working people. And the way that you do that, because right now what the Republicans are saying is, oh no, it's so terrible. I mean, literally Mitch McConnell, who was it that came out and said this recently, that Steve Mnuchin, the Secretary of the Treasury, said, we can't, the taxpayers aren't going to pay people to sit at home than they were making at work. Well, why not? The taxpayers are the people that are paying themselves. This is us. They're the people that are sitting at home not able to work. And so their whole issue is that, like, oh no, we can't pay people more money to stay at home than they would be making to work. Well, there's a real simple solution to that, and it doesn't require a huge bureaucracy to be created where you have to sit there and, prove your poverty to some institution and show them all, how much money you're making, and then have them calculate out 70% of that amount, and all that sort of bureaucracy that gets created. Real simple solution is to create a universal basic income. That's the solution. It's quick, it's straightforward. We can do it using debit cards like Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib from Michigan. She suggested, and I think even proposed, Pramila Jayapal, I believe, and her had a bill together. So I believe Pramila Jayapal and Rashida Tlaib both had proposed doing universal basic income using like debit cards that would be issued to everyone, and the government could just easily, the IRS or whoever it is, I believe it's the IRS, or can issue the same way that they issue these stimulus payments. The $1,200. The IRS issues the $1,200 one-time payment. Instead of these one-time payments, they could be offering a monthly, $2,000 instead of one-time $1,200. They could be giving us $2,000 a month to every single person 16 and older in the country, and then do another, like, say, $1,000 per month for every dependent that somebody has. Maybe 2,000. Honestly, I would love that if it were $2,000 a month for every dependent that you have, but at least $1,000 more for every dependent you have. And so that's the solution. And then why is that a better solution than all of this garbage that they're coming up with? Because it solves that problem too. If the issue is, oh well, people are making more money staying at home than they are working. Well, if everybody's getting this amount of money, this universal basic income, regardless of whether they're at home or working, then that means that if you go to work, then you will be paid your wage on top of this universal basic income. And so it just, it makes too much sense, and that's why we know policies like this will never pass. Other countries all over the world have been doing this. In Germany, they just did a payroll replacement program where they just said, listen, don't fire people. If you don't fire anyone on your payroll, if you don't fire anyone on your payroll, then we will replace all of your wages, like 80 to 90% of them. I think it's like 80 plus percent of them. The government will do direct wage replacement for that, and they will cover 80% of your payroll. And what that does is it makes it so that so the difference is, at the beginning of this, the US had something like 5% unemployment, and at its peak, and right now we're over 20%. Real unemployment is likely over 20%, and at the very least, it's reached 15 to 17% reported officially at its peak, and so we went from 5 to over 15% unemployment in the US, while Germany went from 5% at the beginning of COVID-19 to 6% right now. So they've barely registered an increase in their unemployment, and that was because the government stepped in and protected payrolls and just essentially provided all of those people with a basic income for that time. And some countries did. I saw some countries doing over $3,000 monthly. I think Canada was like $2,800 a month. I saw some that went up to, like, the max was like over $7,000 a month in some places. I think those were in the Scandinavian countries. So just a thing, just something to note and keep an eye on. So, all right. Okay. Shout out to everyone that's here. Thank you so much for being here, folks. If you have any comments, any thoughts, please leave them in the chat, and I will get to them as I see them. Think anything new in there, but if you haven't already, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, just smash that like button below, and and subscribe. It just, by hitting that like button, it pleases the YouTube gods, and the algorithm likes it, and it will allow more people to see the stream. So please do me that favor. If you can afford it, take a step further, and you can donate to my Patreon. Links in the description below. If you have the chat open and you're on a phone, you just got to close the chat out, I think, and you'll see the information below that. So, and that's if you're doing this from phone, you just close the chat and hit the like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to receive, hit that bell to receive notifications. And yeah, just thank you for being here. So, gonna get to our next story. This one, this one's a lot harder to. Okay, so this one's gonna be a little tough. Yeah, definitely a trigger warning. There's some gun violence. Gonna be some graphic material and some gun violence. You're gonna hear some gunshots in this, and so just please, be aware. So 1 second, let me just pull up, make sure that you can hear this. So okay. So a Black Lives Matter protester, Garrett Foster, was shot and killed at protests in Austin. And this happened on Saturday night. This article is from Dallas News, and it was written on July 26th. And so this protester, Garrett Foster, was with his fiancee, Whitney Mitchell. She's a quadruple amputee who uses a wheelchair. And they were at a protest in Austin on Saturday night when Foster was shot and killed. Police have released the driver. So police have released the driver who allegedly killed an armed protester Saturday night in downtown Austin while they investigate what led to the fatal shooting. Austin Police Chief Brian Manley identified the man who was shot as Garrett Foster. Foster was attending the protest against police violence and had been pushing the wheelchair of his fiancee, Whitney Mitchell, 28, who is a quadruple amputee. Their mothers told the Dallas Morning News. The couple, who met in North Texas as teenagers, moved to Austin a couple of years ago and had attended protests in recent weeks. As you'll hear in one of the videos, I believe someone says that they were there at the protests like for 50 days straight, apparently, in Austin. So they've been out there protesting. So Austin police are investigating what occurred between Foster, who they said was carrying an AK-47 style rifle during the protest, and the driver, who called police to report that he'd shot someone. Accounts of what happened that night vary, police say. So yes, they say that Foster was carrying an AK-47 style rifle. This is Austin, Texas. In Texas, they do have open carry laws, and so what he was doing was totally legal as far as we know. It's completely legal to carry that kind of weapon. It is my understanding that you also don't even need a special permit to own an AK-47 style weapon in Texas. So these are the gun laws there, and so what he was doing was within his rights. So witnesses reported that just before 10 p.m. Saturday, a car turned down the street toward the protesters. So that's what witnesses are reporting. A car turned down the street toward the protesters, and the driver started honking its horn. The vehicle stopped in the roadway, police said, and Foster approached the driver's side window as others began striking the car. The driver then opened fire, striking Foster. Manley said at a news conference Sunday that the driver reported Foster pointed his weapon at them before the shooting. KVUE TV reported that police have said Foster did not discharge his weapon, but the chief did say someone else in the crowd did return fire as the car left the scene. The driver and the other person who fired a weapon were released after they gave police their accounts of what happened. Both of them had a license to carry a handgun, Manley said. Police did not say whether Foster had such a license, but it is legal in Texas to openly carry a rifle like an AK-47 without a license. To carry a handgun openly or concealed, one must have a license unless a person is transporting their own handgun while driving their vehicle. It's illegal to brandish any deadly weapon, including a gun. It's illegal to brandish any deadly weapon, including a gun, in a manner calculated to alarm. Austin police are reviewing witness videos and statements to determine the precise actions of those involved. They are asking for help from other people. Okay, so leave this picture of these two. This is the couple here, Whitney Mitchell, 28, and her fiance, Garrett Foster, who was killed. And I'd just like to show a couple of clips here from, these were from TYT, and sorry folks, I'm just watching a version of this stream and just noticing some darkness on the right side of the screen there. I hope isn't showing up. Weird. Okay, all right, so sorry about that. I'll edit that out hopefully. And not from the live stream. So what I want to do is show a video here from, this was posted by the Young Turks, and this is just a clip of the events that somebody is recording live as this shooting takes place. So please, again, you know, trigger warning here, content warning here, gun violence, and you know, you're not going to see a person being killed, but I'm going to show some of the aftermath of that as well, and you're going to hear the gunshots as they happen. So here goes. Again, bear with me. Okay, here we go.
No one is more hated.
Sorry, y'all. Gonna have to play this ad. I apologize.
Plato said that. Have you ever noticed that when information
Someone got shot, guys. Someone got shot.
So I want to remind.
All right, so that's the first clip. I'm sorry that clip didn't appear exactly as I intended it. Let me just play the clip one more time, just to so that I play it with the full clip in view here.
Someone get shot? Someone got shot, guys. Someone got shot.
So I want to remind you all that this took place in Austin, Texas, where...
Okay, so that was just a clip of the actual, shooting as it was taking place, just recorded by somebody that just happened to be in the crowd there, one of the protesters that was there in the crowd, I believe. And I'm going to show one more clip quickly. This one I think is a slightly shorter clip, and this one is just a short interview that they do with someone that appears to know the Garrett Foster and Whitney Mitchell, who, the Garrett Foster being the protester that was shot and killed, and it appears witnessed the events happening, and so they're interviewing her shortly after this happened. She's clearly still processing and in a state of shock, and so again, just content warning here. Let's check it out and come back and discuss.
A car drove up. We were.
I'm so sorry, folks.
No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth.
that.
Plato said that.
Ads
Have you ever
here.
noticed
Once
that when
you pause the
information
videos
comes
for too
out,
long, they
someone
force you to
speaks
watch
the
an ad
truth
again.
about
I
what's going on
apologize.
around us?
Let's check this again.
We were taking the streets. A car drove up. We were taking the streets, and he shot.
They're gonna make me watch the ad
We've
again.
given
I'm
you a
sorry,
40
folks.
cent
I apologize.
raise.
I can't watch this without
I can
watching
still
these.
picture that
We're gonna have
exact
to get the
when my
ads cut in.
Garrett is the husband of Whitney, a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and he is her caretaker and has been for like 10 years. I think he pointed the gun at her. Sorry, they've been out here for like all 50 days so far.
Holy. Yeah, I know who they are. Someone got shot, guys.
So on the day that he
I'm gonna try to play it once more, but I think we're gonna have to watch the ad again. I apologize. I'm just gonna play it one more time, just so that you can hear what she says. I'll just point out some of the things that struck me and stood out to me was that she says that one, that Garrett and his fiance Whitney were there. They've been out there for like all 50 days, like for 50 days straight on these protests. And the person that's talking and holding the camera sounds like they say, "Oh, I know them." So they're clearly like people that would be recognized. They've been there out there protesting. And also just, she says in there, it sounds like that, no, she pretty clearly says that she believes that the driver might have been pointing their gun at Whitney, the Garrett Foster's fiance, and then she sort of trails off. But it sounds like she's a witness in the moment, saying it appears like she saw the driver potentially point his weapon, his gun, at Garrett's fiance in her wheelchair, Whitney Mitchell. So I'll just play this clip one more time for us here. Sorry about the ad.
A car drove up. We were taking the streets, and he shot.
Hey, are you awake? I know how hard it can be. Sometimes just getting out of bed is a hassle.
Garrett is the husband of Whitney, a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and he is her caretaker and has been for like 10 years. I think he pointed the gun at her. Sorry, they've been out here for like all 50 days so far.
Holy. Yeah, I know who they are. Someone got shot, guys.
So yeah, he says, I think he must have pointed the gun at her. So her referring to Whitney Mitchell there, I believe. And so, yeah, I just wanted to, highlight this story because, I mean, it's a tough one to talk about. And especially, there's so many great uplifting things that happen through these protests, and there are, some great sacrifices that are made along the way, and this is definitely one based on what it appears to be. I mean, I know without a doubt there's no question about these people, this guy deserved better. He was clearly out there fighting on the right side of history, fighting for a good cause, and seemed like he may have just been trying to protect someone he loved in the way that he knew how, that he was totally justified in doing. And I get this feeling that, there's going to be those just the hypocritical, you'll see the NRA won't come in here and say anything about how this gun, legal gun owner deserved to live because he was protesting, in favor of Black Lives Matter. And so they won't come out and say anything in favor because they're not about what they claim to be about, which is like gun rights advocacy. It's really about right-wing advocacy, just extreme right-wing extremism and advocating for, just far-right politics from the NRA. And so I don't expect anything from them on this. I don't expect them to come to his defense in any way. The cops have already let the driver go, the dude who murdered this dude, because this is just conjecture. I don't know this, but it just feels like, they when it's in favor of something like Black Lives Matter or something like that, they're just gonna always lean in favor of the sorry, but I don't know any other words besides fascist in the situation, whatever. I don't, get on me about that, but whatever. I mean, they're always going to lean towards fascism and protect the fascist. And that's what they're doing here. And the dude murdered somebody who was out there protesting, doing everything legally. It sounds like this driver may have approached the protesters threateningly, driven at them. I've seen another video, I wish I pulled that up, of someone speeding a car towards a bunch of protesters, like on a highway. That was frightening. I don't think anyone was severely injured in that. But we all know about Heather. I'm spacing on her last name right now. I apologize, but she was the protester that was killed in Charlottesville. She was murdered, run over by a dude, psychopath that just killed her in cold blood, drove his car into a crowd of protesters and killed this woman, Heather. So we know the dangers. It's reasonable for a protester to be afraid. I remember during DAPL, right, shortly after DAPL, North Dakota passed legislation that said that it was legal for a person to drive over protesters, essentially, if they, quote, like, feel fear in any way, which is absurd. So yeah, that was tough. This is just something where I don't really have a ton to say on it other than to just try to, highlight this brother who deserves to have his name remembered. And he was fighting for a cause that is near and dear to me, of course. And I'm glad that we got fighters like him on our side. And I feel really sorry for this woman who was his fiance, and sounds like he really helped to take care of her. They were dating for about a month, I think, when they got together when they were around 18 years old, like 10 years ago. And about a month after they were together, I think she fell sick. She got really sick, ended up having to have her arms and legs amputated, and he stuck by her side, and he loved her unconditionally from all descriptions. And they were out there. She said stuff like that. She felt like she wasn't doing enough, which is just wild to have to feel that way. And so she wanted to be out there protesting. And he was there supporting her like he did in everything else. And so just shout out to this brother who deserved better and deserved to live. And I know that, yeah, this dude that murdered them deserves to be, you know, punished for what he did. And so I hope that he doesn't get away with it. And we all know how this would go. Typically, I think that, you know, the fact that he's white, I think, helps his situation a bit, at least, because at least, you know, there's at least his life does matter. It's just, unfortunately, it matters less because what he supported, and who he supported. And so, you know, it mattered less to these people, obviously not to me, of course, but to the people that are going to be investigating and prosecuting this. So, you know, it is what it is. But Garrett Foster, we should remember the name. Good brother. It sounds like that's gone from us too early. So shout out. And hope that he gets some justice, especially for his fiance. All right. All right. So thank you so much to everyone that's been here so far. Been running for about an hour now. Thank you so much for being here. Be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Let's keep on. So, next story.
This is Democracy Now!, the Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Yeah, there y'all. Okay. All right, here we go. So, a black man by the name of Vox Booker recently survived an attempted lynching in Indiana by a group of white men. And I just wanted to bring the story to your attention and also discuss a bit implications of something like this. So I'm gonna play a few clips from this is from a Democracy Now! Report on this incident. This incident occurred on 4th of July weekend in Indiana, and it was in Bloomington, Indiana. And as of right now, I believe, as far as I understand, still no charges have been brought against these folks that were responsible for this. So I'll do a follow-up on this to dig a little bit deeper, but came across and I just wanted to highlight this. So listen to Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! Just reporting on the story, and then we're going to hear from Vox Booker, and we'll play a few clips. I'm going to play this first clip at regular speed. I believe it's about 2 minutes, and then the next clip is a bit longer, so I'm going to play that a little sped up, but so just a warning. Going to get through a few clips here, so
As we go to Indiana, where authorities are investigating a violent racist attack on an African-American man that took place over July 4th weekend. It was caught on film. But more than a week later, no arrests have been made in response to the incident. A warning to our viewers, this story contains disturbing images. Vox Booker was at Lake Monroe near Bloomington, Indiana, in the Indiana State Forest with friends on July 4th when 5 white men pinned him to a tree, beat him, threatened to lynch him. Booker is a member of the Monroe County Human Rights Commission in Bloomington. He says he was able to get out of the mob's hands after passersby intervened to get the attackers off him. Last week, Vox held a news conference with his attorney, local elected officials, and two of the white witnesses who intervened on his behalf during the attempted lynching. This is a reporter questioning one of those witnesses, Stephen Cox.
Fox, had said multiple times yesterday that when they were holding him down, calling for a noose, threatening to harm him, he truly thought that they were trying to kill him.
Yeah.
As someone who was an outsider, kind of able to see all the moving parts of this, did you also think that it was a possibility that Vox might not make it?
Yes. When they called him, you can leave the boy here. You guys can go, but you can leave the boy here. So the white people could go, but they wanted us to leave him there and to do what they wanted to with him. I don't think anybody could do that in good conscience. I'm not a fighter, so I'm like, but I wasn't going to leave. But it was scary. I mean, probably the scariest thing I've ever seen.
And this is a reporter questioning another white witness, Brennan Golightly.
In your opinion, if you all, the other people that were there as well as yourself that had their phones out there with Vox, if you were not there, do you think the situation would have ended differently?
I think it would have ended very differently. I also feel if it was me or any one of our other campers, that wouldn't have happened. That's just my personal feeling of the situation. I do think because of the color of Vox's skin that this happened to him.
The FBI is investigating the attack as a potential hate crime, and Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton has condemned it in a statement. But Vox Booker is now calling on the U.S. District.
All right, so I just want to also play a clip here from Vox Booker, him describing the situation. And I'm going to play this clip sped up at 1.5 times because it's a bit of we have to get through about almost 5 minutes of the clip, and so I just want to get through it a little quicker. And then so no disrespect to Vox Booker here, I don't want to I want him to be heard, so apologies there, but I do just want to get through the clip because it's a lot to get through in this clip. So there we go.
Of Southern Indiana to convene a grand jury to take up the case. Vox Booker joins us now from Bloomington. Welcome to Democracy Now! I'm so sorry to hear about what happened to you. Can you describe it was July 4th?
It was July 4th, the nation's Independence Day. I was simply trying to gather with a group of friends to watch the lunar eclipse.
You walked into Indiana State Forest?
Yeah, our site was just about a short 10-minute hike in. A friend and I, we were going to go meet a group of others. On our way in, we were confronted by a man who was wearing a oversized cowboy hat with a Confederate flag print on it. We were cordial enough, continued towards the site. A moment later, he pursued us on an ATV, told us we were on private property. I knew we weren't actually on private property, but rather than have some type of confrontation, we just simply apologized and continued to our site and spoke to the organizer. From there, we didn't know what would escalate later.
So you went to your campsite, and what did the person who ran the campsite tell you?
So he informed us that this gentleman actually wasn't the property owner, that he knew the property owner. So from there, we just went ahead and advised the rest of our group that they should take the public access way of the beach so there wouldn't be any dispute at all. Shortly later, some of our group joined, and they had informed us that these gentlemen had set up sort of a barricade or blockade on the beach using the boat and some ATVs. And as they were coming in, they had white power and some other phrases chanted at them. It was all very disturbing.
So then explain what happened. Explain when they actually physically attacked you, Vox.
So a friend and I went down to see if we could just talk to some of these folks and build a rapport and reason. The conversation was going well. Then this gentleman that with the Confederate flag hat on initially joined. He quickly became belligerent. We felt the situation devolving, so we just simply walked away. A few moments later, as we were walking away, I heard footsteps quickly approaching. This man came at me and swung his fist at me. Another gentleman came. So I was on the ground with them. A third gentleman came. We tussled for a moment. Two more men came. And from there, they were able to pin and drag my body to this tree and put their body weight on me. And as several of the folks started kicking and punching me, there's a moment where one of these gentlemen jumps on my neck with both of his feet, and I can feel his full body weight impact me. It was scary. They were literally in the video. You can hear one of the gentlemen refer to me as nappy headed. At that time, he had his hands in my hair and was using my hair as leverage to strike me in the back of the head as his friends held me down.
And then what happened?
The noise, one of the men's daughters heard us. She came out screaming for her father to let me go, for his friends to get off me. They refused and tried to tell her to go away. More people heard the daughter screaming because we were still close to the roadside and people were passing through. People just started coming to my defense. They yelled at the men to let me go. They came forward as these men pushed them away or swatted at them. There's a moment where I hear a lady yell out, "Don't kill him." And it's a moment where you realize that you're hearing your own potential death being narrated in front of you. And you have to be aware of George Floyd and how many other Black folks in our history have heard the executions spoken before them in real time. I felt myself want to cry out, "I can't breathe," with the weight of these men on top of me. And I just couldn't say the words. So these folks continue to stop just merely being bystanders, as we've seen in so many videos, and actively engage and resist. And they were finally able to pull me from under these men. And then they use themselves as sort of a human shield to make sure that as these men pursued us, that I was still safe.
Did you?
All right. So let me just play. I just like to play a couple other clips from in this interview that I thought were definitely just things that stuck out to me that I wanted to make sure that you heard as well. So here's another. This one is a shorter clip of Fox speaking, and this one, as I said, will beat. Sorry about that. Sped up.
There's a point where this gentleman, as a command, tells a friend to get a noose, not get a rope, but simply get a noose, as the first term that comes into his mind, with the heavy connotation in American history with Black people and lynchings. It was an odd thing to hear rather than even get a rope. It was just the noose was the first thing that came to his mind.
So how did the police?
So yeah, there you can hear him describing how one of the gentlemen talk about, instructed one of the other ones to go get a noose. So you already know what this is. Just gonna play one last clip. This is Vox. Sorry, this is Vox speaking about once the how the police became involved in the situation. So Harry is describing how the police became involved in the situation and what happened there.
So how did the police end up coming? Did you and the others in your party call the police? And what did they do?
I know that I called the authorities. I'm not sure if other folks had already called the authorities as well. It's a state park, so the Department of Natural Resources responded. They took about 40 minutes to get there. Before they even came to see if any of us were injured, they went and spoke to these men that had attacked us first. Then about 20 minutes later, they came to us. They didn't seem very interested in actually doing an investigation. It wasn't until the white bystanders that had stayed on the beach with me just became fiercely passionate and objecting to me being treated this way and feeling like there was a miscarriage of justice, that these officers went back and got these individuals' names. Then they came and took some photographs of my injuries, but they never specifically asked me if I needed an ambulance.
You had patches of your hair pulled out?
I did have patches of hair missing. There was a moment where the commanding officer showed up and he instantly starts lecturing me on property rights. One of the things that I do in our community is I also chair the county's Affordable Housing Commission. So I've done that for 2 years, so I'm intimately acquainted with the details of property rights in our county. I pulled up the county rights, the land rights in my phone in real time to show this commanding officer that this land wasn't actually these folks' land as they were claiming. He still continued to berate me. I explained to him how they had literally tried to lynch me. And he said, well, I could go arrest them, but then they could say to us, well, what do you mean? We can't defend our property? And he was just fixated on this notion that somehow, even if I had been on private property, which I wasn't, that superseded the importance of my life.
So there, Vox is just described. I mean, these dudes. This is a dude just rolling through, trying to have himself a regular some. I mean, to each his own. Fourth of July celebration. Me personally, not a moment I'm celebrating as a black person in this country, unfortunately. But that's his uh prerogative, and he's totally entitled to that, and he's somebody who's involved in politics and in fact in racial justice issues directly, and so he for this to happen to him, I'm sure must have felt even more surreal. And this is what's going on. We hear about these stories all the time, and I just wanted to. I only see these things get reported on in places like Democracy Now, and I don't see this on CNN and MSNBC. And you're not going to see a story like this. They'll do 24 hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week of coverage about Russia and Russiagate and all that sort of stuff, but they'll never they won't give an hour of their airtime to a story like this. And really, when these are the sort of things that are happening around that we want, we should know about, and we should keep prominent in our minds so that people don't get this false idea that racism is in the past, and lynching isn't a thing anymore or anything like that. Like, we just saw what happened with George Floyd being lynched, and now and then there was just a slew of lynchings in the wake of the George Floyd protests. Had people, anytime you see a story that says a black person was found hanging from a tree, I don't give a damn, what inferences of suicide they try to claim in that story. Like, don't ever let that pass your smell test. No black person is hanging themselves in no damn tree. No black person is committing suicide that way. I don't give a damn, that there will just don't ever let that pass your smell test. Like, that should immediately set off alarms in your mind if you're seeing stuff like that. So just be wary of those sorts of stories. Whenever you see that, it means somebody that there was foul play there, and that should be assumed at the very least. So I just want to I'll Vox made a great point there about how when the cops came in, the cops were all concerned about property rights, this and that. We're talking about the history of America here, and how, I mean, I'll let Vox have. Vox said something that I actually, before I finished watching this video, I tweeted something out that says something about how this, I'm watching the story and I'm reminded that property in America has more rights than black people, and it's especially ironic, I don't know what you would say, when you consider that black people were once property in this country, that we still can't even have full rights, but we got all kinds of property rights, and you're allowed to defend property, and possession is 9/10 of the law, like they say. It's all, property rights is everything in this country, and you're allowed to murder somebody in cold blood if they come on your property. And in some places, I mean, that's not how it is. Even if somebody like breaks into your home to steal stuff in some countries, it's illegal to shoot them and to kill them. Sorry, like, you can't, if you kill somebody, that's still, you murdered them. Like, so I don't even, we can dig more into that and talk as, leftist ideas on things like that. I would love to discuss that more for sure, but this was just something that I wanted to make sure it gets mentioned, and these are the kinds of stories that I want to make sure that I'm highlighting on my channel. Not just terrible stuff. I hope it's not always terrible stuff, but just the stories that kind of go under the radar of mainstream news that really shouldn't. And so before I finish this one, I just want to let Vox get the last word on this, but I thought it was interesting that he kind of finished with a statement it's very similar to what I had read from this story, what I had interpreted from the story, just like from my initial viewing of it. So here he is, Vox Booker.
My name, Vox. It's from the Latin for voice. There's never been a time that my parents haven't told me to speak up for what's right. My late mother encouraged me to be vocal and to stand up for others when I saw folks put down. I think that what's happening here is happening throughout the nation, where our political leaders have sown discord, where property rights are elevated over the lives of Black people. And it's time for our nation to demand a change.
Beautifully said. Couldn't have said it better. Property rights in this country have been elevated above the rights of human beings, in particular Black people in this country, and Indigenous people, and in non-native people. Non-native, I should say. Immigrants, because we can get into things about who's really native to this country, but so that's that. Those let's just keep folks like this in our minds, and just know that this sort of stuff happens and is still happening, and we have to be aware of it so that we can fight against it in every way we know how. So right, gonna check on the stream, see how long we've been running for here. Hour and 20. Okay, so let's check out what we got left. Okay, yeah, got a couple more stories I'd like to get to, so let's do them. Let's do a few more of these. Right. How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for being here. Please, if you haven't already, if you're watching this after the fact, like, subscribe, hit that subscribe button below, hit that like button, hit the bell to get notifications if that's not too annoying for you. And if you can, please do me a favor, huge favor, and in the description box below, you'll see a link to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/radicaldemocracy. And if you could please go to that Patreon and throw me a few bucks, it's deeply appreciated. Goes a very long way in keeping this thing going and growing this show. And I can't thank you enough. If you can spare that, I really would appreciate that. So please do me that favor. Support, Black leftist media, up and coming leftist media, socialist media, and let's grow these movements. All right, so next up, let's see what we got. All right, this was actually cool. So yeah, let's do the Elon. Okay. So, all right. Let's talk some Elon. All right. So, Elon Musk recently opened his stupid mouth again and just said some sideways stuff. And so just wanted to talk about that real quick. And so let's see what we got here. So Elon Musk tweeted out on July 25th or so. A few days ago, Elon Musk tweets out, "Another government stimulus package is not in the best interest of the people, in my opinion." Already garbage. Just some hot trash right out of the gate. But somebody responded, and of course, what billionaire doesn't think, oh no, people don't need stimulus? And this is just stupid because it's literally going to crash the economy. But this is how these morons, this is how it really highlights how these morons are able to pass as like smart people in this society, but they're fucking idiots. Like, this is moronic that if you think that in the midst of this, with mass unemployment, that we don't need a government stimulus package right now. That's fucking absurd. But just history absolutely proves these people wrong. But whatever, these are just the morons that we've elevated into like the height of our economy and society here. So because he started PayPal, just genius. So if you get the, you know, he was like a part of it. He didn't even start it himself, but whatever. So Elon tweets out, another government stimulus package is not in the best interest of the people, in my opinion. Someone responds, history of Armani responds, you know what? Armani, is that like literal Armani, the clothing? I don't know. I don't know. But okay, no. Okay, yes. All right. Okay, Giorgio Armani, who I don't know who Giorgio Armani is, but I think I should know who Giorgio Armani is. Okay. Oh, he's the designer, Armani, the designer. Okay, so that's like the Armani, the designer. Okay. Oh, okay. I see. So this is just somebody, but he's a blue check, so that's why I didn't know if this Armani here. So we got a blue check Armani. I don't know who this Armani is, but Armani responds to Elon and says, you know what wasn't in the best interest of people? The U.S. government organizing a coup against Evo Morales in Bolivia so you could obtain the lithium there. And then to which Elon Musk responded, we will coup whoever we want. Deal with it. So that's just like, and just to point out, so what are they talking about? Bolivia coup, if you're not familiar, Evo Morales, there's an article here in People's World that says, after Bolivia, Elon Musk says capitalists can overthrow any government they want. Billionaire Tesla owner Elon Musk has come under fire after welcoming last year's overthrow of Bolivian President Evo Morales in what was seen as a bid to obtain the country's lithium reserves. Hundreds of Bolivia's indigenous population were massacred following what was branded a fascist coup against Morales, who is currently in exile in Argentina. Bolivia has between 25% and 45% of the world's known lithium reserves, an estimated 21 tons, most of which is in the Salar de Uyuni salt flat. Lithium is a crucial component of the batteries used in Tesla vehicles and other electric cars, as well as computers, smartphones, and other equipment, and its value is set to skyrocket as sales of such vehicles increase. According to current Bolivian constitution, lithium can only be extracted and processed by Bolivians, but privateers are continuing to press for access to the country's vast resources. Efforts to obtain access to the precious metal, led by transnational mining companies based in the United States, Canada, South Korea, and elsewhere, had failed prior to the ousting of Morales. So, as you can see here, Elon Musk stands to directly benefit from this coup. And here we have, this is what they call extractive settler colonialism. You colonize this place in a way that is made to extract resources from these, natural resources from these people. And the tech industry plays a massive role in this. And I say this as somebody coming out of the tech industry who's still technically a part of the tech industry. And so I think I have some small, teeny tiny little bit of authority there to speak on it and say, yeah, this is a massive issue within the tech community, as far as, these companies just working with like the military industrial complex and just being willing to do some really undemocratic, violent things against peoples in order to get richer, just make profits, because that's what it is at the end of the day. Elon Musk isn't saving and isn't doing this for some altruistic reasons about saving the world or anything. The dude just wants to make a bunch of money. He's a greedy piece of shit. And I mean, he doesn't give a damn about, human beings, clearly, in general, and particularly the people of Bolivia. I mean, Evo Morales was democratically elected. There was this really terrible, you know what? I got a clip for this, actually. Here is Michael Brooks, actually, giving us a little bit of background on Evo Morales and this coup in Bolivia. So let's actually check out this clip from my, person who I greatly respect, Michael Brooks of the Michael Brooks Show, the late great Michael Brooks here. So
There's a
Sorry
medical tech
about
company
the
called
ad
Elon.
here, folks.
If you invested
I'm gonna learn how
$1,000 in
to
that one, you could have turned it.
mute this.
All right, let's do a couple of clips from this before we sign off. Can you set this up? This is Evo Morales, who of course was deposed in a coup in Bolivia this past October. He's been in exile ever since. There's ongoing and serious mobilization organizations amongst labor, amongst the movements for socialism inside Bolivia, resisting the coup government that is running Bolivia, and of course backed by United States and other parts of the Western world. But Evo Morales is the legitimate democratic president of Bolivia, and he represents something much even larger than that specific title. And tell us about this conversation, Dave.
Yeah, this was just an interesting conversation that was hosted by the Communist Party of Canada, along with a host of Indigenous leaders in Canada as well, that they had with Evo. And, I pulled a little clip from it. I highly suggest it if y'all have the time or interested to check it out. Maybe I'll put it up on Twitter after this. Anyways, the clip is really great. The only thing that's a little bit wonky is because they had to do like live translations. He has to stop in the middle. So I can sort of set up, it's going to be a minute of a translator saying what Evo had just said. But before that, he had been talking, about the fight within Bolivia and, how much of a like anti-Indio, anti-indigenous coup that this was and the kind of sentiment that was going on. And here he's sort of talking about what they did, what his democratic movement did in Bolivia, and also why it was such a threat to the white power structure of Bolivia.
Unfortunately, some groups that represent the high class have said the following: we study to dominate and rule over the indigenous people. Why? We showed them how to rule a country. We showed them how to increase our economy, how to decrease inequality, how to decrease poverty. That was the result of our democratic and cultural revolution. You know what they used to sing? They used to sing Lamento Boliviano, the Bolivian cry. They used to make us read the sick country, El Pueblo Enfermo. They used to say that Bolivia was dying if it was not to follow neoliberal strategies. But us, the indigenous movements, social movements, along with other professionals, showed them that a different Bolivia was possible. Without the need of the IMF or the ATPDA, we were able to do it. We were able to nationalize our natural resources, take back our raw materials. We started to industrialize lithium. And after that is when the coup came. Because when we started to industrialize lithium, we said we would do so without the help of the United States. A Republican senator in the United States said not too long ago, the coup was supported by Donald Trump for the simple reason of the lithium.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's 100%, accurate. And, I would also add that, Inez has now said that they will hold elections on September 6th. We'll see how, genuine she is about the pledge now. And also if she's going to, try to prevent Evo's party from being able to participate, fully in those elections. And, I just wanted to add.
So, yeah, there you get a little bit more background there, and also get to see Evo Morales there. I think he's speaking from Argentina there. And something else to note about Evo Morales, he's also an indigenous man. And so this was, I believe, like the first indigenous leader or one of the first indigenous leaders or something like that in South America. And so, I don't know, this is a person who, rejected the neoliberal power and power structures, rejected Western imperialism, rejected that extractive colonial settlerism, and actually held on to those natural resources and protected them in order to help the masses of people in Bolivia. And it was only when they stood up and refused to essentially, be a puppet of the U.S. and to allow the U.S. to take advantage of them at the cost of the Bolivian people. That's when we decided to step in and do this coup. And Elon Musk, billionaire Elon Musk thinks that's totally cool, and that, you know, masses of people should have to suffer, hundreds of indigenous people should have to be massacred, and that's all okay because, you know, Tesla cars need batteries, and you're going to get a bunch of largely white liberal people who are going to all praise Elon Musk for, you know, Tesla electric cars, and they're going to berate other people and poor people for not driving electric cars. But, you know, this is the real shit that goes on behind the scenes or whatever, where it's like, we got to have a proper left-wing socialist critique of these, you know, an anti-imperialist critique, an internationalist critique of these systems at play, so that we make sure that we are in solidarity with not just every working class American, but working class people literally everywhere in this world. That has to be our movement. We will not win the way that we need to win, and we will not bring about the world that we need to bring about until we amass that sort of solidarity and build that solidarity, and just have that sort of reflexive instinct to build that instinct to have that solidarity working class people, and to recognize, you know, whenever you read a story, I like to just run a little bit of a thought experiment and like swap out US with whatever country they're talking about, right? And just swap the places and see how I feel about the story when, you know, when the US is the one in the other position of this other country, and that, you know, if that other country was in the position the US was in, and just to flip those in the story and literally read it as, you know, with them swapped out, and then you just start to see, you know, how your ideology holds up then, and are you being consistent, and do you think that this should be the way that things were, even if you were the person in the other country? Because until you do that, you just don't really have you're not really recognizing every human life as valuable. And Cornel West says it, you know, how you don't we have to recognize that the life of, you know, the child in Yemen or in Afghanistan or in Somalia or in, you know, Australia or Germany or Russia or, you know, Bolivia, Colombia, wherever, Jamaica, China, wherever we are, you know, in Hong Kong, wherever there are working class movements, wherever we see those sorts of things happening, we have to build solidarity and recognize this. And so that's just something that we're going to have to keep ourselves in constant check on. And this is something that Michael Brooks was really heavily invested in, was this sort of internationalist movement, left-wing movement, and something that I think that folks like Yanis Varoufakis and what do they call them? It's like the internationalist progressive something. So they've got this like international progressive political party and movement that they're trying to create, where they'll essentially be running people on the same platform in different countries, and they'll be running on an internationalist left-wing platform. And so something to look out for and just keep in our minds. So and Elon Musk is a piece of shit and needs to shut the fuck up, and that's that. So yes. All right, so let me check in on the stream, see where we're at. We are at over an hour and a half now. We're at 1:40. Let's check on the comments here. We got some comments. Thanatos says Musk has been making out of-pocket tweets throughout the pandemic, like downplaying the severity, saying lockdowns are unnecessary, and saying deaths are being overcounted. That's awful. And yep, it sounds like the typical garbage that this dude is known for putting out into the world. So Thanatos goes on to say, and when masks/ventilators were in shortage, he could have easily switched his Tesla factories to making ventilators, etc., but he deliberately chose not to when someone called him out on Twitter. His tweet was something like, the Tesla factories will switch to producing ventilators if there becomes a need. And without context, people have praised him for it. as if there wasn't an existing global need. Yeah, even Bill Gates, who also sucks and has his wealth/privilege to jumpstart his education and tech career company, said Musk should stick to talking about electronic cars and rockets. LOL. Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, yo, yeah, that was wild. And not only did he do that with the you know, trying to get himself some like PR there for saying like, oh, like you know, we'll switch our factories over, like, which gets him PR, just in saying that. It's like, oh, he's gonna do that, he's so great, wasn't that so awesome? And but also, like, and mind you, if we had a proper socialist economy, like, we would have manufacturing in place so that we could have just spun up production of things like ventilators and masks and PPE in this country as soon as we needed it. We would have spun that up and spun that manufacturing up. But because we've shifted manufacturing over to where we can exploit low-wage workers in other countries, now all of our manufacturing's moved away, and we just don't have the capacity and the infrastructure to even build these things out. And so not only did he do that, but then he also went and sent some quote unquote ventilators to a hospital in New York when they were at like the peak of their like pandemic outbreak. And he sent them what was actually, like, I think there are BPAP and CPAP machines, and I think he sent the ones that can actually be used. There's one that's just for sleep apnea, and then there's ones that can be used as like sort of like portable, sort of like mini ventilators. They're not really like, they're only enough for like one person max, and they're not really the full ventilator that you think of, like sort of like iron lung kind of thing that you're thinking of, this huge machine. Those like CPAP machines, they're like something like hundreds of dollars, like a few hundred or like $1,000 or like a couple $1,000s or something like that. And a real ventilator, a full ventilator, is something like $50,000 or something like that. And this dude, you know, Tesla, Elon Musk sent over like a box of like a handful of these like CPAP or whatever, BPAP or CPAP machines to New York, claimed that they were ventilators. It turned out that they were like only these, you know, lesser machines, and that like he just felt the need to like post out that like the doctors that receive the shipment or something, they pose like in front of like a box of these things, and it's got like the Tesla logo on it, even though Tesla didn't build these things or produce them or anything like that. Like, they didn't manufacture these, they just ordered them from somewhere and had them shipped there. But they felt the need to make sure that it was packaged into a Tesla box, and then they also you know, packaged it into a Tesla box, and then had to take this picture for like a photo op, which was just trash. So Millie says his net worth is $65 billion as of this month. He's the 11th richest person in the world right now, according to Forbes. People need to stop conflating wealth with success/brilliance. Yeah, like, this is like the dude, 65 billion as of this month. Like, that's just disgusting. 11th richest person in the world, according to Forbes. And look at the dude's a fucking moron. So clearly this idea, like, if Donald Trump is the president of the United States, like, if we haven't already proven that meritocracy is not real, if that doesn't prove that meritocracy isn't real, I don't know what will for people. So yeah, Millie says, also, I would love to hear your take on Kanye's running, LOL, either in another video, if not here. Yeah, Kanye's a joke, as we all know. I think Kanye's a moron, and I don't think that his run for president is real in any way. I think that just another you know, rich moron that feels like he deserves to run the world, essentially. I think that he's like the black version of Donald Trump, just somebody that only gives a damn about himself and is only doing this to just to make headlines and to get attention on him. He just is constantly in need of attention. And so I think that his run, I think he might have already bowed out of the race already. I don't even know if he's still technically running anymore. I think that Kanye might have already dropped out. But if I don't know, does anyone know if Kanye is still running? I think he might have dropped out now. I hope he did, because it was just a distraction. And honestly, I think that the whole spiel was just done to get attention on himself and to have people looking at him. And the dude just a dude who's desperate for attention and will do just about anything to get eyes on him. And so I think, just like Donald Trump, that's what drives him. It's not whatever. I don't think that he has any care about policy or any idea or understanding of what it is a president does, other than, like, you know, yeah, I just don't think that he has any concept of that. So I don't take his run for presidency seriously. I think that it would likely peel off, you know, just as many, like I don't know who's going to be voting for Kanye West. I don't even know who those people are. Like, I would really love to see that run go anywhere, and just to see what kinds of people are supporting that cause there. But I don't know any Kanye supporters out there. I would love to see him. I'll have to cover the Deborah Messing, Nina Turner spat, because that was great. Nina Turner just absolutely destroyed Deborah Messing when she tweeted out some sideways shit about Kanye West and black voters. And that was hilarious. And we should definitely cover that and talk about that at some point. So love Nina Turner. Love me some Nina Turner. Shout out to Nina. She follows me on Twitter. I found out that Nina Turner follows me on Twitter. That was one of the greatest moments of my life, I just want to say. So shout out to Sister Nina Turner, Senator Nina Turner. Yeah, she is something special. You notice that Joe Biden doesn't bring up people like Nina Turner in the conversation for vice president. They were talking about, black woman as vice president. Well, Nina Turner, there's a great black woman right there, strong, progressive, left-wing black woman who supports the policies that are popular in the country. The voters actually wanted Biden to pick Bernie. Bernie polled number one in who would you like to be Biden's VP pick. Bernie was polling number one. Your best bet would have been to nominate like a Nina Turner if you really wanted to unite the left in the Democratic Party. But that's not their concern. Their concern is just holding power for their corporate donors, and so they will do whatever they have to protect their corporate donors, and that's just what that is about. So What Up America says Elon Musk backs Kanye West. Oh, Elon Musk backs Kanye, sort of. LOL. Yeah, so like that should say everything about that right there, right? Like, when Elon Musk and Kanye West, like, that should be the ticket right there. I heard that they were like did some photo op together or something like that. Like, Millie says, LOL, I just saw that. Yeah, he endorsed him officially, maybe. That's awesome. Like, I can't believe Elon Musk. Like, these are two billionaire morons, like, self-centered, just pricks that really deserve each other. I wish they could run on a ticket with Donald Trump, just complete them. You know, they all belong together. They all deserve each other. These people are all morons with like conservative ideologies, and it's just I have very little capacity for their nonsense and don't take it all that seriously. Millie says Al Jazeera described his platform as a Republican-leaning, pro-black religious platform. What? Al Jazeera described his platform as a Republican-leaning, pro-black religious platform. What the hell is that? How can you be Republican-leaning then pro-black? Like, that is literally, the Republican Party is 98% white. You talk about identity politics. Nobody does identity politics like the Republicans. They are a white identity political party. It's clear that you can't do more, you can't get more identity politics than having 98% of your base be white. I'm sorry, being one identity. So 98%. So that idea, Republican leaning, pro-black, that's hilarious. I don't even know. Those two phrases shouldn't be able to be placed in the same sentence. And so I find that to be hilarious, that they think that you can be both Republican leaning and pro-black when Republicanism has been anti-blackness from the outside. Anything pro-corporate, it's going to be, anti-black. So let's be real here, because we all know who holds corporate power in this country. So let's be real. So Millie says, ha 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 ha. I just saw West stated that he would run under the birthday party because when we win, it's everybody's birthday. I just can't. Oh my god, I can't even. Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Okay, so when we win, it's everybody's birthday, and that he was running for president as a service to God. Jesus Christ, pun intended. Jesus Christ. Wow, this dude is he's a fool. He's a damn fool. Kanye West is a damn fool. And he may have some actual real mental health issues that he needs to deal with, and that's all well and proper, but mental health is an explanation, not an excuse, and so it doesn't excuse his behavior. Certainly he has plenty of people close to him and plenty of resources. He has all the money and resources that anyone could ever imagine in order to be helped. If he wanted help, he could get that help. The vast majority of people who need help can't get access to the help. He has all the access he needs. He has plenty of people around him. He's got plenty of money. He could get the best doctors. So yeah, I don't have a lot of sympathy or any room for empathy for Kanye West and his foolishness. All right, so let's maybe jump over to a couple other stories here, maybe, if we got time. We're right at 150. I wanted to try to keep this around 2 hours, but we got, 8 people viewing now, so I want to keep it going. Let's keep it going. I got some more stories to cover here, so let's cover some more stories. What do we got? All right. Ooh, okay, yeah, that's something I definitely wanted to bring up. So bear with me 1 second while we pull up the next story. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. If you haven't already, thanks to all the folks that just showed up. Please do me a favor, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to receive notifications. If you can afford it, do me a huge favor. I will love you for it. And in the description box below, you will see a link to my Patreon. Just click that link. Go and throw me a few bucks on Patreon if you can. Help this channel grow and survive. Means a lot. Goes a long way. Really appreciate it. Love you for it. And I will shout out all of my Patreon subscribers. Probably give you like a spot and some credits when I finally start to get some credits together or something like that. But yeah, so let's get that, queue up our next story here. So this is a quick one that I just wanted to bring to your attention. So Washington, D.C. will soon join Maine and Vermont in allowing convicted felons to vote from behind bars. So this is the Radical Democracy Podcast, Radical Democracy Channel. I would like to report on things where we have any sort of extension of democracy. And so this was a cool one. I think this is just the sort of stuff that should be happening everywhere. But so let me read from this. The story posted July 14th. This November, and so this kind of snuck under the radar. People haven't even talked about this, so I just wanted to highlight it because I just noticed it kind of snuck under the radar. So this November, DC residents serving time in prison for a felony will be allowed to vote. It's a new provision passed under an emergency reform bill on July 7th. Right now, only Maine and Vermont allow incarcerated felons to vote. So quick note, Maine and Vermont are the only two states that allow incarcerated felons to vote. Just note, those are the two whitest states. So no coincidence there. I think that, disenfranchising felons is a political tool, and it's being it's being deployed in a very racist way. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that it's not possible for felons to vote in all the rest of the places where, you know, you have massive black population of prisoners. So let me just read further in the story. The right to vote in DC was taken away in the 1950s for those convicted of felonies while serving time. DC is unique because it doesn't have any prisons in the city. There are 6,000 convicted felons from the district serving their sentences in prisons all across the country, according to the gentleman. In November, those residents will be able to request an absentee ballot to vote. However, the DC Board of Elections won't be required to send ballots to inmates until 2021. The bill is expected to be signed into law by Mayor Muriel Bowser by the end of the week. The bill is part of temporary emergency legislation, so it will only be in place for 90 days. The DC Council plans to make the legislation permanent in the fall. So I just wanted to highlight this, just kind of throw it out there, let folks know that this is happening, because it is a, you know, this is what should be going on across the country. We should be pushing for legislation like this in every state that we, you know, wherever you are, we should be pushing for legislation like this to restore democracy. If you believe in democracy, if you believe democracy is a fundamental right in a society, that it's the most, you know, some people would say it's the most important right in a society, particularly a democratic society, then that should be an inalienable right and something that you can't take away from anyone for any reason. And I think that it's just a good thing to keep prisoners voting, because I think that it's a part of rehabilitation. I feel like you keep people, let them feel like it's if you believe that democracy is a human right and you remove a human right, then you are dehumanizing someone. So I believe that once you've declared something to be a human right, that should be, that we cannot take that human right away for any reason. So like things that I consider human right, like healthcare, housing, food, democracy. And so I think that a living wage, I think that you know, right to a job and a job with a living wage. So I think that even prisoners should be able to get jobs and jobs with living wages. So this like prison slavery garbage, the 13th Amendment, you know, that abolish slavery but legal except in the case of prison slavery, prison labor. So I think that, you know, if you haven't watched the documentary 13th on Netflix, please check it out. It's amazing, and you know, it's just great, and it'll take you through that history. So definitely worth a watch. But yeah, this is good news, promising for democracy. We got, you know, felons should still be able to vote and still be able to participate in democracy, just so that they remain engaged in their community, still feel like they're a member of the community. And I think that it'll just be easier for them to transition back into, you know, normal life, quote unquote, and hopefully will go towards, in some small way, towards helping to reduce recidivism, like the rate of people returning back to prison after being let out. So just make people feel like they're part of the community still. Don't dehumanize people, because when you dehumanize, you just push them further into things like violence and isolation. And so very, you know, destructive forces. So I thought that was promising, something that I definitely wanted to mention, since it did go under the radar, and I just like to see it happening. It is kind of, you know, two things to point out. I mean, one, DC doesn't have any actual prisons there, and so they, you know, it's not a massive impact, but there are 6,000 prisoners from DC, and apparently where you're registered to vote is like where you are like a resident of, I guess, apparently. And so even if you get moved around, you still like vote where you're like a resident of, not where you've been moved to, apparently, I think, or something. That's what it sounds like, because these DC residents are going to be able to receive ballots even if they're felons. But another side note, two more side notes. One, the ballots don't appear like they're going to be able to vote in the 2020 election, unfortunately, because they said that absentee ballots don't actually have to be delivered until 2021. So I'm hoping they don't mean the ballots for this election year have to be delivered, but I'm hoping they mean that no ballots will be able to be delivered until the year 2021, meaning after that, moving forward in an election year, they will be able to request and receive ballots and vote in those elections after 2021. Other side note was that this was just a temporary measure as part of an emergency police reform bill. And so it's only effective for 90 days. And then they hope to come back, the council, and make this permanent. But there's no guarantee that it will be made permanent. I'll keep an eye on it, give you an update when I can, if I see any news about it. All right. So let's see if we're gonna to cover any other stories. Let me just check the comments and then probably gonna wrap up there. Probably I'll leave the rest thinking till tomorrow, but let's see. Let's just check comments really quickly. Thanatos says, oops, sorry folks, my phone just fell. Thanatos says, I have no idea how that works for incarcerated residency and voting. But I know in Massachusetts, health insurance wise, it's through the facility they're at, and their listed residence is the prison's facilities. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so Thanatos just says that essentially that incarcerated folks for healthcare, it's they're using the address of the prison as the person's address concerning health insurance matters. So something to note, just just something that we should be aware of and note. And thank you for the info there. I wasn't aware of that. And so maybe the rules are different in different states for different things. Maybe DC's different, or maybe it's maybe there are federal rules that govern this. These are, I think, from what I understand, it's specifically for like federal prisoners. I don't know if that's only because it's DC, and I didn't quite understand the details of the nitty gritty of that. I'll dig more into that and try to get a better understanding of it for you and bring that information back to folks. So thank you so much for everyone that's here right now. If you haven't already, please do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you can. Also, in the description box below, you'll see a link to my Patreon. If you could please, give that a click, check it out. And if you can spare it, if you can afford it, please throw us a few bucks on Patreon. It will go a long way to keeping the lights on around here, to keeping this show going, keeping this podcast going, and helping it to grow. I'm going to keep on nagging you about this, and until we can get enough folks, enough Patreon pledges to sort of make this a full-time thing for myself, and hopefully not have to work in the just destructive tech industry any longer. So please, you are saving me from that miserable existence, and also saving some jobs, probably, because that's one less person there destroying jobs in the in software. So by building software that destroys jobs. So do the world a favor by supporting the Patreon, and just support the channel, keep coming back, keep checking us out, and having these discussions. I really enjoy talking with everyone and just having these discussions out. And hopefully soon we'll do some things with just getting some of your feedback on some potential logo ideas in the next stream, I think. And then we're going to talk about, we'll talk about a few other things in the next stream. I'm going to save everything else for the next one, I believe. Any other comments, questions, anything? Anything else anyone want to chat about? Anything that came up in the news today? Anyone want to chat about? Feel free to mention it now. Otherwise, we'll start to wrap up the stream now. And what I'm going to do with these, just to kind of give you some sort of behind the scenes sort of info, what I'm going to try to do with this now is to take this live stream and then maybe chop it up into some smaller clips with each of the different topics that were discussed, and then try to release those out for you in smaller chunks so that they're in a more shareable, more digestible format, hopefully. So that's why I'm trying this new format, and I'm going to try to just get better with this format, tighten things up, make it more professional, all that sort of stuff. Eventually, you know, once I've got enough support from the community and we got enough Patreon pledges, I'd love to get, like, you know, pay a producer to help produce the show and that sort of stuff. So, and, you know, when at that point, you know, any workplace that I'm building is going to be a democratic workplace. So you'll also be supporting the development of democratic workplaces, which is the real, I believe, the fundamental change that we have to make to our society in order to start to build, in order to overthrow capitalism. I think that that's the way that we're going to overthrow capitalism, is by building democratic workplaces to start with. And so I think that that's the fundamental change that we need to make, and I plan to live that and hopefully do it with your help. So thank you so much. What Up America says, great show. Thank you so much, What Up America. You know, it's folks like you and everyone else here that joins and chats and, you know, supports in every way they can, that is making the show great and is going to make it, you know, make it even greater. And yeah, I'm seeing growth in the channel. I'm seeing, you know, more views on the videos. So it's definitely growing. Things are definitely improving every day, every week. And so this is really early on. You found this channel very early, folks, and so I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the early support. And we're gonna grow this together. This is all of our. I really want this to be something that is a community project, and we're growing. We're learning together. We're talking, and we're all gonna sort of, you know, I'm hoping for us to all grow together and build something together here. So I really appreciate it. Thanatos says, I like the discussion aspect of the show. It's engaging and interactive and democratic. LOL. Awesome. So thank you so much, Thanatos. I think so too, and that's the goal, and that's the aim, is to try to make things more democratic, to bring in the views and the, you know, discussion from the community, and to just hopefully be a place that we all can show up, discuss left-wing ideas, and start to build some sort of power to move forward and make our impact some way in this, you know, and make some inroads towards, you know, like I said, destroying capitalism and overthrowing capitalism and replacing it with a just system that I believe will be the 21st century socialism, democracy in the workplace, democracy in our housing, democracy in all of our institutions. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. And, you know, the best thing you can do, and I'm sorry, I keep forgetting this. I'll remember. You know, we're working on it. We're growing. But best thing you can do is to share this link with your friends, family, whoever. You know, whenever we go live, really, that's the best time to share it. That's when I should be asking everyone to share it. I forget, but I'll try to remember moving forward. So in the future, you know, share the link now, because they can still watch the old, you know, the video will be uploaded, the full stream, and they can still watch it and see the full stream even after the fact. And then I'll be releasing clips of the shorter bits of it, hopefully, if they're clippable, and I'll put those out as well, so that hopefully you can share those as well. So just do me a favor, you know, share these videos wherever you can, you know, social media, wherever you can, and just keep coming back and having these discussions. And I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for being here. And I think that's that. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. I'm going to try to get these things going more regularly as well. It's, you know, I'm new, I'm learning, you know, and so baby steps. All right. So just keep supporting the way that you all are. I appreciate it so much. I always feel sad saying goodbye, but bye. Thanks for being here, folks.